Welcome to Spoil Your Appetite. I'm Tristan. Oh man. Yeah, as you can tell by the title, I got a lot of Disney stuff to talk about, but, we'll get there. We'll get there, that's for sure. I'm doing pretty good. It is currently 1:39 a.m. as I started this podcast, and, I couldn't have picked a better time to record this podcast, honestly, because, I bought a certain game a couple weeks back because it was on sale. Came out this year, very controversial, and I beat The Last of Us Part 2. I literally beat this game like 40 minutes ago, and it's interesting. I just feel like, I just finished it. I, been playing it for 2 weeks or so, here and there and whatnot, and so, but today I finally finished it, and, spoilers for the game. I mean, there's no way I can't talk about this without spoiling it. I'm sure people who are listening to this probably know what happens in the game, but I just feel like it's an interesting game, that's for sure. Now, let me take you back to my feelings on the first game. Now, I haven't played it in a long time, but I remember just feeling like, not all that impressed with, but, as I've seen, rewatched a couple of clips or whatever of it as time went on, I was just never, it's pretty good. I understand why people love it, and it's like one of the greatest games of all time, and it's a great story, and, I totally see why HBO is gonna make it into a series, which is kind of like, well, you don't really need to make it a series because the game is good as is. I mean, even if you take out the gameplay, it's like, it's the story and the cutscenes still flow well or whatnot, and it's pretty damn great. But yeah, that first game is like regarded as one of the best games of all time, and as far as like story wise and narrative wise, and yeah, I'm totally for it. So I remember when they announced The Last of Us Part 2, I don't know what it was, but I think it was just that teaser trailer, and it being the focus on Ellie and whatnot, and it's just like there was something going on, and I was just like, okay, she's probably going on a revenge quest. See, my theory was I think it was that first, I don't know what it was, but it was like another trailer for it where we see the girl Dinah with Ellie and whatnot at that party, and it cuts back to Ellie, and she's like, I'm gonna kill them all, and I'm like, oh, so she falls in love with this girl, and she's gonna go after them. Definitely not the case at all. It was not. It was just not what I was expecting, And granted, when this game came out, I heard about one of the leaks, and that was, Joel dies in this game, and I'm like, okay, and everybody was like not happy with that. Well, at least, it wasn't as bad as, say, with the character Abby, but I'll get into that later. But I remember so many people getting upset and hearing all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to jump to conclusions or whatever. I'm not going to let that affect me. It's like, yeah, I'm kind of bummed that I got that spoiled, but you know what? Once I see it in context, maybe it'll hit me as, because I always, because usually when I hear stuff about spoilers in movies or whatever, I'm always like, well, I got to see it in context. Like, yeah, you spoiled it for me, but it's like, now I got to see it in context. And so the context of it all, it was just something. So it's definitely a game that is just, it's just interesting. I mean, I started playing it, and the first moment, we get to play as Abby or whatever, I kid you not, I really felt like, had I not known Joel was going to die, just that indication of Abby's looking for somebody in this certain building where Joel and Tommy were, like, they didn't even name drop him or whatever. They was like, we know he's in there or whatever, and it's like, oh, So, okay, well, this is going to be interesting. And so, it's just, it was interesting. And seeing it context, I think I was blown away because of how early it was, too. I was like, this is all in the first act? Holy shit. Like, I knew it was coming, but, like, I didn't realize this was being the first act. Like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, it's just, the game is interesting. I mean, it's not a mixed bag by any means, but it's just like, I would say it's probably not as, I don't want to say it's not as satisfying, but it's not satisfying. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just have to say it. But it's good. I don't think it's a masterpiece by any means at all, because it's just that Abby part. You know, Abby kills Joel or whatever because Abby's dad was the main surgeon that was gonna, you know, do the surgery on Ellie from the first game to get that cure from her and whatnot. And, you know, and Joel just being protective of Ellie kills all the Fireflies and everybody in that hospital. So I totally got where she was coming from. But to have this whole, like, gameplay with her and to have it match up to Ellie's story in The Last of Us Part 2 was kind of unnecessary. I just felt like it's strange. It's a strange way to tell this story, and, you know, I get it. I applaud Naughty Dog for taking that risk of, of making us feel for Abby and whatnot, and, you know, I felt for Abby too, and, you know, I think what I like about The Last of Us, probably both games, is, like, how real and authentic it is. Like, where, you know, the first one is all about this cure and trying to get Ellie, who is immune to all the virus or whatever and zombies, and, you know, she gets bitten, doesn't become anything, she's just immune to it. And, you know, it was very much like this was going to be the beginning of something good, but because of what the risk was when it came to Ellie's life or whatever, you know, it's, you know, Joel didn't want to do it. Joel didn't have the heart to do it because of the bonding that they had over the course of crossing the states and whatnot. It's just like, it's just interesting. I really did. And so, you know, we cut to part 2 and it's like, okay, we have it, you know, Ellie going after Abby, and Abby's like built like a tank almost. And, you know, getting her backstory and, you know, seeing her side of the story and her perspective, like, you know, she was a Firefly and now she's part of this wolf pack or whatever, who's, you know, has a football stadium with all the resources and it's just like, it's interesting. And, you know, the game relies, at least as the narrative, relies on emotions. Like, both of these characters are in pain, and, you know, they're in so much pain that they turn that pain into revenge quest. And, you know, Ellie's side of the story, she's not okay with it. Like, she has that need for wanting to take out Abby, but, you know, as you play the game, it's like, especially with that ending, it's just like, man, like, she had the chance to kill her, but she doesn't, because I just feel like that wouldn't satisfy her. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. The Abby stuff or whatever just kind of I don't know, man. Like, I liked it, but, man, there were definitely moments where playing Abby, I'm like, this is kind of stretching just a bit. And, you know, I literally watched a spoiler review for it coming from one of my favorite YouTubers, Jeremy Johnson. You know what? He put it best. He basically said in the terms of, like, they should have just split this specific story into 2 parts, where, you know, in part 2 could have been about, you know, the falling out between Joel and Ellie or whatever, and yet have that, you know, the beginnings of Abby trying to find Joel or whatever, and all and her backstory and whatnot. And, have the third game be about this ending between Ellie and Abby or whatever. What happens when, you start off with Abby finding Joel and whatnot and then killing him, and then I don't know. I couldn't agree more with what Jeremy Jahns basically said, and it's not bad by any means, but for what I got it for, $30 or something like that, it was worth the $30. I don't know if I would go out of my way to pay exactly $60 or so, because I was just like, I don't mind it. And granted, stealth games I'm not too good at stealth games. I mean, it was a chore to get through and whatnot, and it's bad when you have to put on aim assist and like all this stuff to the point where you just have to turn it off because it gets so distracting. Like the aim assist for this game was just like so distracting, like trying to get those headshots or whatever. But man, the cursor, which is always like reset back to the body or whatever, not the head, and it's just like, oh my god, this is annoying as hell. And I don't know, there were definitely things I liked. I mean, I was very much invested in Ellie's story more so than Abby's, because I liked Abby's story, and you do get that sense that she basically did it out of revenge, but doesn't feel comfortable with it. Like, she doesn't regret it, but there's just that sense of like, trying to move on, but not really. Like, she comes with her backstory, and it's just like, okay, cool. But I was more invested in Ellie, I'm sure like most of us were, because it's just like, Ellie was going to get this ending. Like, I legit thought the ending was where, she and Dinah and Dinah's kid or whatever, and Ellie's being a stepmom, and they're on that farm and all that jazz, and it's just like, I thought that was the ending, but no, Tommy comes back, and he's like, she's here, Abby's here, and we can go find her, and all this stuff, and then, it broke my heart to see Ellie. It's just like having that PTSD of like seeing Joel being clubbed to death or whatever, and her just being like, I have to do this, I have to really do this, even though Abby told her, if I see you again, I'm gonna kill you or whatever. Which I gotta say, I really thought that boss battle where you play as Abby and you go up against Ellie was probably awesome. I thought it was a really cool boss battle, because it's just like, okay, it's sort of like playing against myself almost, She's got all the gadgets and all the weapons, and you gotta sneak around and all this business, and yeah, it was definitely difficult at times, for sure. But I had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, it's just like, I get it, I was hoping that would be the ending, but then again, it's just like, what? This game is all about, like, trying to go for that realism stuff. And, she doesn't, Ellie doesn't kill Abby at the end or whatever, because it's just like, Ellie does some really shitty things. Like, she kills a pregnant woman at one point just to find Abby. And it's just like, dude, it's all about pain. And, that's what the game is. It's just all about pain and whatnot. And look, I liked it. I don't think it's a masterpiece, as I said, but I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, there are definitely moments I liked, like, just that whole farm sequence. I really love that farm sequence up until Ellie's like, no, I gotta go find, Abby and finish her off. And, yeah, I don't know. I mean, and that's the other case. It's like, will there be a third one? Will there be a third game? I don't see how there will be a third game. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I mean, who knows? With that HBO show of The Last of Us, and if it goes well and they want to do 2 or whatever, I'm curious to see if, they'll split it up or whatever, because I just really feel like, I don't even know how you would do 2 as a miniseries or as a series or whatever, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. The Last of Us Part 2, I think is worth, half price, that's just me, but yeah, I just finished it and I don't even know what to say, like, and there's a game plus mode or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't think I want to play that story again. I mean, if you just cut out the Abby stuff, sure, fine, I mean, I get it. You just want to see, they want to do the perspective of Abby and humanize her and, see from where she's coming from. I get that, but yeah, I don't know. Last of Us Part 2, yeah, it was okay. It was alright, but yeah. So, that's The Last of Us Part 2. I just felt like I just had to get my quick thoughts out, because I just felt like if I sat on this for the next episode of this podcast, I don't think I would have the words for it, because this is all coming fresh, just like literally finished around 1 a.m. So, but anyways, so let's dive into the topics that I have. So, first things first, now, Kingsman. I love Kingsman. I love the first one. Second one, it's a bit of a cheese ball. So, Matthew Vaughn wants to do 7 more Kingsman movies. Now, I don't even know what to say to that, honestly. I mean, granted, I like the first one a lot. I mean, it's basically hardcore James Bond, basically. And, it is goofy. And I thoroughly love it. I think it's just this nice little gem of a movie that maybe didn't need a sequel, because, I don't know, the sequel is just a bit of, just what's it called? They turn up the level on the campiness, and it's just like, I don't know about this, and then it's just kind of a weird movie. Like, look, I'm pretty much blocking out that second movie, but I will say I am definitely looking forward to this prequel movie it's just called The Kingsman and whatnot. So I'm really looking forward to that. You got Ralph Fiennes in the main role, and it's set in World War, what is it, 1 or 2? I cannot remember. I think it's World War 1. But yeah, it's just, I like the feel of it, because it feels like, it kind of feels like we're going to the original roots, and, it's not going to be camping or anything, but it's just going to be smooth, and the action looks pretty nice, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this prequel, honestly, but, if all goes well, we might get 7 more movies, but then again, that all depends on the money, so, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about 7 more, honestly. Are we sequelizing the stuff in the present day, or are we just, like, where are we taking this exactly? Like, what do you mean you want to do 7 more? Like, are we gonna, flip-flop from the stuff in the past and the present? Is that what you're kind of doing? You're gonna split some of these movies up? So, I don't know. And I like Matthew Vaughn as a director. I mean, I love Kick-Ass. I especially love what he did with X-Men First Class, which I feel like doesn't get enough love, honestly, because that movie's just classic. Like, that is the X-Men movie where I felt like this feels like an X-Men movie, whereas with those other X-Men movies, specifically the main ones with X-Men 2, and then X-Men Days of Future Past, where it feels like it's more of Wolverine and the X-Men, more so those first 3 movies, honestly. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, well, I'm sorry, I'm going back to X-Men First Class. I lost my train of thought just now. But yeah, I love X-Men First Class, and so I'm just kind of like, I kind of wish you would do something else that's not this. Like, I want to see you do new things with, I don't mind you going back and doing Kingsman or whatever, but it's like, you know, just kind of want to see you do your own thing and whatnot. But, you know, hey, he's 1-1 for Kingsman, the Kingsman movies for me, so who knows, maybe the prequel will be 2-1 for me. But yeah, 7 more, I don't know about that. So Netflix is going to have a show hosted by Nic Cage called The History of Swear Words. Now, if you had pitched me this idea and this was going to Netflix or whatever, and they would need a host, Nic Cage is perfect. I just feel like with his craziness and attitude or whatever, he's perfect. I honestly think he's perfect for it, and you know, I can't wait to learn about the history of what is it? It's bitch, pussy, cunt, and some other ones. I didn't write them all down, but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this show. It's just kind of interesting. You add in Nic Cage and all his wackiness. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's how I feel about that. There's really not much I can talk about that, honestly. But here is something I can talk about as much. So, we got some Spider-Man 3 news, specifically MCU Spider-Man 3 news. First, it was Alfred Molina is coming back, reprising his role as Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus. And then, not much later on that day, I read that, you know, apparently it's official. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, as well as Kirsten Dunst, are coming back for Spider-Man 3, which I say, okay, you know what? I shouldn't be surprised because of the fact that we got the announcement of Jamie Foxx as Electro is coming back. And, you know, at the time I was thinking, okay, is this the same Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, or is it a different version? I don't know. But, you know, with what I just said just now, it probably is the case. And, you know, I'm kind of conflicted on this one, honestly, because on one hand, I'm like, okay, this feels gimmicky to me, honestly. And, you know, I understand why people are loving this and all this business. And, you know, it just feels like ever since Into the Spider-Verse came out, everybody's been thinking, you know, just been mocking up, like, some posters of, like, the live-action Spider-Man and one movie. And I'm just like, oh, of course y'all would do that. But, you know, I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like it's too soon or whatever. But since, you know, we're getting Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and supposedly that's going to play into Spider-Man 3, or it's going to lead into Spider-Man 3, which makes sense because Doctor Strange is going to be in Spider-Man 3. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just, it feels weird. And, you know, sometimes I'm like, you know, I mean, I'm sure this was their plan, you know, well, Kevin Feige's plan of playing with the multiverse and whatnot, but I don't know. I really don't know. I just feel like, you know, sometimes nostalgia isn't a good idea. You know, bringing back something just for the sake of nostalgia isn't a good idea because, you know, I get it. Fans are going to go crazy for it, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, look, I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it, what the story is going to be about. I mean, personally for me, I kind of want to see Spider-Man be on the run because his identity is out there. But then again, I guess they'll just shove this to the side and be like, you know, they'll probably have a scroll, you know, transform into Peter Parker, and that way Spider-Man can be right there and, you know, call that whole bit fake news from Mysterio or whatever because he was a bad guy and all that fun business. But yeah, I don't know. And, with the Alfred Mulaney coming back as Dr. Otto Octavius, the first thing that came to mind, I'm just like, okay, so are they going to pull him before or after he went crazy or whatever? Or because, if we're going to, I don't know. I maybe I'm just reading way too much into it because it's like, okay, if you're bringing him back, but I don't, because, as you remember, Dr. Octopus dies at the end of Spider-Man 2. He drowns or whatever. So he's not really alive. So I'm kind of wondering, so when this happens, are the events of Spider-Man 2 going to lead into, Spider-Man 2, those events coming from there, is the plot of Spider-Man 2 going to be integrated into the main plot of this or whatever? I don't know. I just have so many questions. I just want to see how they do this, and I don't know. And also, because it's just okay, how do you bring Tobey Maguire back and Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus, unless you're doing, unless Spider-Man 2 is going on, and then that plot kind of stops because there's a rift in the multiverse or whatever, and I just don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's maybe it's going to be a different sort of timeline. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But this feels weird, but I don't know. And, it is kind of going to be nice to see what the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man have been up to. If they're just going to completely, as far as Tobey Maguire goes, they're going to completely ignore Dr. Otto Octavius died in Spider-Man 2. It's going to be interesting to see what they play with. The idea of where those two Spider-Men are at in their lives and whatnot. I'm hoping for, I honestly hope we do not get a paint by the numbers sort of we don't get that Peter B. Parker-esque for the Tobey Maguire or whatever, because we don't need that. We don't really need that. I mean, I just, maybe the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man has settled down with the kid or so, and, is still being Spider-Man or whatever. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, because, I imagine it's going to be set in, real time, of course. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see all this stuff. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that whole thing. And also, I might as well talk about it. This whole rumor of Daredevil, Charlie Cox's Daredevil, is going to be in Spider-Man 3 as well. There's a rumor that's going around like that, and you know what? I know it's just a rumor, but you know what? Since we're on the topic, I might as well talk about it. There's a lot of people, putting it out there, save Daredevil and whatnot. Now, look, I can't be a part of it, because of the fact that, look, I am a big fan of Daredevil. I've read comics of Daredevil. I've been a Daredevil fan since the Ben Affleck movie. And, I still think that movie, I wouldn't, I'll just say it's a guilty pleasure, maybe. Haven't watched it in a while. I know there's some terrible fucking scenes in that movie, but, I still kind of like it-ish. But, yeah, I like Daredevil. Daredevil is my favorite Marvel character ever. And, I'll never forget the day when Netflix dropped all of season 1, and I'm just I gotta see this, and just loving it. Now, I say, I think if Marvel is gonna do Daredevil again, Kevin Feige wants to bring in Daredevil again, they should just reboot it. Just straight up reboot it. Because of the fact that, one, I do not want to see a watered down version, at least for that iteration of Daredevil for the MCU. that iteration is very adult, mature. I don't need to see that iteration in the MCU at all. Like, it just wouldn't feel right to me at all. If you're going to do Daredevil, do a different one. Like, do a different iteration, get a new actor or whatever. You know, I love Charlie Cox's Daredevil. Like, I love that show. I really fucking do. And, you know, to me, it's like, you know, they had the rights back. Like, I wouldn't do another season because, honestly, to be really honest with y'all, I really felt like it wrapped up perfectly, minus the stupid post-credit scene at the end of season 3. But, yeah, why would you want to bring that iteration back? It's like, yeah, it's great. Don't get me wrong. Like, that show was peak Daredevil. Like, it'll never get better than that iteration at all. But, you know what? That's not what I'm looking for. I don't need to see the next iteration be better than the one before, or the one that I liked beforehand. I don't know. It really grinds my gears, you know, the notion of bringing Charlie Cox's Daredevil, that iteration, to the MCU. Like, we don't need that. No, I do not want to see that. Nor do I want to see any of those characters come back. Like, Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. Like, no, I don't need to see that come back. Because it just doesn't... That iteration just doesn't fit with the MCU. And, you know, I know they made references or whatever to the MCU movies or whatever, but honestly, you cut those out. They weren't, you know, those shows were really not in the MCU. Like, and there was no way they were going to bring them into the movies. Are you kidding me? Like, those shows were so adult, it's not even funny. But yeah, I just can't get over the notion of, or even the possibility of, bringing Charlie Cox, Daredevil, that iteration, to the MCU. Because then it's like, oh, if you're going to do that, might as well bring the whole gang. And it's just like, I don't know. I liked, you know, minus Iron Fist, of course, and bits and pieces of Jessica Jones and Luke Cage or whatever. But I liked it when it was just its own little thing or whatever. I don't know. There's something that feels so wrong about bringing that into the MCU or whatever. But, you know, again, if it does happen, cool, great. You know, people that wanted this are gonna get it. But for me, I'm just like, I'll be curious. I'll be interested. But it's definitely not something I would do. So I'm hoping, you know, if, you know, Kevin Feige has any plans for Daredevil, just reboot it. You don't have to continue that last iteration, because peak Daredevil. Just, yeah. But in any event, let's talk about at least the selective news from this Disney shareholder announcement or whatever. So they had, you know, Disney had a shareholder, presentation or whatever, and some shit was just dropped. And, you know, I there was so much I didn't even know what to even start with, honestly. But let's just go through the list. I think the one that's really fascinating to me is they announced that Alien, you know, that Ridley Scott Alien, is going to have an FX show coming from Noah Hawley, who did, I believe he did Fargo and Legion. He's going to do an Alien movie. I am so curious about this because of the fact that it's like, you know, what was it? Last year, the year before? No, it was last year. They, you know, Disney bought Fox Studios for like $70 billion or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay. You guys have all this IP. You know, I was wondering if you guys were going to do anything with these other IPs or whatever. And looks like it's going to be a show. The first one being Alien. It's going to be an FX show. Very curious to see what that's going to look like, honestly. And I don't know. Just the thought of Alien being a show has the potential of being something cool and great. I mean, damn, I can't remember who holds the rights to Terminator or whatever, but, Terminator, I feel like Terminator just needs to be a series. It was a series once, and from what I heard, it was great. Take Terminator back to just do that as a show or whatever. But yeah, Alien being a show for FX seems pretty cool, honestly. What else did they announce? They announced that, what is this? Patty Jenkins is directing a Star Wars Rogue Squadron movie. Now, I'm very, for a while, I've been saying, I always feel like, what Disney should do with Star Wars is take anything out of the Skywalker timeline. Now, from just the title alone, Rogue Squadron, I mean, alright, fine. I'm curious because it's just going to be about pilots. And, that video they released of Patty Jenkins talking about her father being a pilot was very inspiring. And, I'm very curious to see what that's going to look like. I mean, Patty Jenkins did a great job with, Wonder Woman and her other movies, which is, I mean, damn, give this woman anything, honestly. And so, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see what they do with it. Is the Rogue Squadron going to be about Wedge Antilles and all that? Is it going to be about, those squadrons? You know what I'm talking about. Red, blue, gold, all those squads or whatever. Is that going to be the case? I'm just kind of curious what that's going to look like. They also announced a Lando series is coming from Dear White People writer Justin Simon? I think that's his last name. If not, I apologize. But yeah, dude, oh my god, please bring Donald Glover back as Lando Calrissian. I've always said, the Solo movie, I wasn't a fan of it. There are things I like, but overall I'm just eh. But the one thing I really fucking loved was Donald Glover as Lando. And, and since they're going to do a series for Disney Plus, really hope they bring Donald Glover back, because, man, he was the man. And, I like Dear White People. I really did. The Netflix show, it was really good. I really liked it. I think there's 3 seasons. And so I'm just okay, I like your work, Justin. So, yeah, bring me a Lando series, please. So, Ahsoka series. There's a Ahsoka Tano series coming now. I am going to talk about Clone Wars after I get through all these Disney shareholder news or whatever, but they announced a live-action Ahsoka movie. Now, from that episode, Grand Admiral Thrawn name drop. Now, people have been saying when we're going to see Thrawn, and honestly, this is where I feel like we're going to see Thrawn. If we're going to see Thrawn in any series, upcoming series, it's this one, honestly. Because, yeah, Ahsoka's looking for Ezra Bridger or whatever. I haven't watched Rebels yet. I'm going to get to it, don't worry. But I know what happens at the end. So, yeah, an Ahsoka series with Rosario Dawson, great. Can't wait to check that out. They also announced a Rangers of the New Republic, and this is going to take place in the Mandalorian timeline. Now, I imagine that has to do with something about Cara Dune's character in Mandalorian, about how she's going to be a Ranger of the New Republic, and I don't know if I can't remember if they said this is going to tie into the First Order, or the foundings of the First Order, which is okay, cool. So yeah, Rangers of the Republic, okay, of the New Republic, sorry. So, yeah. Another series I'm looking forward to, and they dropped the first trailer, is Loki, and it's coming in May 2021. Now, this trailer was all kinds of wacky. Also, Owen Wilson's in it. Wow. I haven't seen that guy in a while. So, Loki's going to do all kinds of timey-wimey kind of things. Possibly seeing different kinds of timelines. Like, from what we saw in the trailer, there's a quick moment where Loki's looks like he's in New York, and in the background, New York is destroyed. You even see Avengers Tower destroyed now. Is that part of the T'Chari invasion? I gotta imagine so. Also, I love the new headpiece that Loki has with the helmet and whatnot. It looks pretty dope. Like, looks like he can actually move his head and whatnot. Looks comfy. So yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to see what all this timey-wimey shenanigans is going to be about. That's for damn sure. So yeah, that's it. And what else? Now here's one that really, really got me. So they announced that John Watts, the guy that did both the MCU Spider-Man movies, is going to direct Marvel's first family, Fantastic Four. I could not be more excited for that news. Like, when I read Marvel's first family, I was like, oh my god, Fantastic Four. Like, I can't even concede this news, Like, I can't really get over it because, I haven't watched the very first Fox movies with Fantastic Four and Rise of the Silver Surfer. I haven't watched those since those first came out, and with the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie, which I thought was okay up until like the 1 year later transition. That's when it all went to hell in my mind. So the fact that we're gonna see the Fantastic Four, and I'm surprised. Now they're saying it's in development, but I couldn't be more excited for it. And what kind of kills me is the fact that if only Stan Lee was here to see the MCU version of Fantastic Four. That's kind of what kills me about this whole thing. But I'm so excited to see it. I'm so glad they announced that they're going to do a Fantastic Four movie before, X-Men. Because, Fantastic Four hasn't, lately, as far as like live action goes, they haven't had the best track record. So I'm happy to see that, they're going to do Fantastic Four before they do X-Men and whatnot. And it's just like, damn right. Like, I'm so excited. I will say, I kind of wish Peyton Reed was directing it, because I read somewhere online where he was initially going to do a Fantastic Four movie, and he was going to take it back to the 60s. And I'm just like, that would have been interesting to see. A period piece Fantastic Four movie. Hell yes, I would have loved to see that. But yeah, I couldn't be more excited to see a Fantastic Four movie, especially in the MCU. And I don't know who they are going to cast or whatever. I mean, I've seen a bunch of fan casts of John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, which I'm like, I think he could do it. He could really do it. I've only seen him in A Quiet Place, and that's about it. And they also want his wife to be in it, Emily Blunt, as Sue Storm. And you know what? I wouldn't mind that at all. I think she's a great actress. I mean, I've seen her in Edge of Tomorrow, A Quiet Place, so many other movies. She's great. And so, I don't even know. I'm definitely in that camp of like fan casting for those two. But yeah, Fantastic Four. Oh my god, I can't believe it's coming. Now, the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to this Disney shareholder news. this is probably my favorite announcement, or at least half of this announcement. The first half of this announcement that's my favorite is that they finally confirmed Obi-Wan Kenobi series is coming. They got a logo, and they're saying it takes place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. I'm very surprised that it's going to take that like time period, because I initially thought, oh, it's probably going to be maybe a couple of years or so, if not right after the events of Revenge of the Sith. But no, it's going to be 10 years, and I'm very excited to see that. I remember seeing this news on my Twitter, and it was just like, oh my god, it's coming! Holy fuck, it's coming! I can't wait to see it. Especially Deborah Chow is going to write all of this stuff, because her episodes of the first season of The Mandalorian were great. Like, her episodes were awesome. But yeah. And then, of course, the other half of this news story with the Kenobi series, which I could care less about, but at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm kind of curious to see what this is going to look like. And that is, Hayden Christensen is coming back as Vader in the series. Now, a lot of people are saying, he's going to be Vader, he's going to be in the suit, but my mind is kind of like, what if he's not in the suit? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to think of, like, maybe, what if it's like, what if it's like a mental force battle of some sort, where they're not, like, physically fighting or whatever, it's like mentally they're fighting in some sort of force, field of some sort, and, you see Anakin, aka Vader, or Vader, but not with his suit on or whatever. I don't know. I'm just curious to see how this is going to go, because I don't know. It's kind of, I really don't know. It's weird to think of seeing Vader and Obi-Wan fight before A New Hope. It's kind of weird. It's like, okay, so he's going to be not on Tatooine, obviously. He's going to be off on another planet when he faces Vader or whatever. Which, okay, cool, I guess. I don't know, because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, had they not said Vader was going to be in this series, I just would have assumed that, Obi-Wan, the show would be just taking place on Tatooine, and, he's going to fight off, like, Tusken Raiders and all kinds of crazy pirates or whatever in the show. But I don't know. I don't know. And, I hate to be that guy, but hopefully Hayden's acting skills are better than what I've previously seen in, the prequel trilogy or whatever. I mean, it's been some time, so it's been 15 years. I mean, I'm pretty sure his acting skills are, like, improved. I mean, damn. And if not, shit, that's gonna be a bummer. But, yeah, honestly, that's all I really want to talk about as far as shareholder news goes or whatever. So, the last thing I want to talk about, and I didn't even have it in my notes here, is I finished the Clone Wars. I know the last episode I was just basically saying how I felt about it so far or whatever. So I just felt like, you know what, this is where I finished it. I'm going to talk about it. So I'll just take you back to where this all started. Like, why did I want to start this? It all started with, well, it's just kind of just that sense of like, I want to put my Disney Plus, I want to make use of my Disney Plus account. And, growing up, I didn't watch many cartoons or whatever. I, had a few cartoon shows that I would watch. But I remember specifically after Ed, Edd n Eddy, wasn't really into cartoons. So I totally missed out on, well, even Justice League and, Avatar The Last Airbender. But even then, that was still going on when Ed, Edd n Eddy was on the air. But I don't know. And, I remember watching the Clone Wars movie, and, I did watch the Clone Wars movie before I binged all of the series and whatnot, and so, but, and it's still a shitty movie, but whatever. But yeah, I just always had it in my head growing up as a kid. It's just like, okay, Star Wars to me is the live action movies. Nothing else really matters to me. You know, I was very small minded, you know. I mean, shit, it didn't take me till I was like 18 to like fully sit down and watch all the Justice League animated episodes, you know, all those episodes, and, you know, going back to the Batman the Animated Series, and I'm just like, oh shit, this is great, this is really great. And so, you know, and plus it's like, you know, I never started Clone Wars either because, you know, I grew up with the prequel trilogy, you know, I'm thankful for that trilogy and all, but nowadays, can't stand that fucking trilogy. I can't even watch that trilogy. Like, I have no interest in it because I think that trilogy is so bad. Like, the ideas are there, but man, the execution sucks balls. But you know, and that's kind of another reason why I didn't watch the Clone Wars, because I'm like, I don't really care about the prequel era. But you know what? I bit the bullet because I've heard so many great things about it. And granted, I've had some of this stuff spoiled for me, but it don't matter. So I finished it, and you know, at the end of the day, I will say it's a mixed bag for me. It very much is still a mixed bag. But I will say this: there's more pros than there are cons, and you know, the pros being, you know, just again this appreciation for the characters. Like, it actually made me feel for these characters. Like, they actually made me give a fuck about these characters while not really deviating from, you know, the characters that we see in the prequel trilogy at all. Like, and you know, I especially love, like, there's just some interesting arcs, you know, how they bring Maul back or whatever. Like, that was fascinating. I mean, even though it's a stretch to, you know, just, you know, buy in how Maul survived or whatever, because he has revenge and whatnot, he held on to that hatred or whatever. But, you know, arcs like that, especially with, like, the Mandalore planet, where it's very much like, you know, the Duchess Satine wants to just be peaceful, doesn't want to get into this Republican separatist battle or whatever, the Clone Wars. And it's just really cool. And, you know, I also love the show just because of the fact that, you know, some episodes don't even focus on the main, you know, characters from the prequel trilogy. Like, some episodes are just straight up about clones or whatever, and you know, it's kind of cool to see stuff like that. And that's another thing I love about the show, is like seeing these little moments in the show. Like, for example, Count Dooku training Savage and whatnot. Like, that was fascinating to me. Like, I was very interested in that. I was very, you know, again, the Mandalore, that whole arc, and how Maul becomes a part of that, and how he takes over Mandalore, like, that was cool as shit. Like, I had no clue that, you know, in the show, the Duchess Satine doesn't want, you know, Mandalorians or whatever on the planet. She just wants to keep the peace or whatever. And, you know, Duchess Satine and Obi-Wan Kenobi were a thing. It's just like, oh, wow. And the fact that Obi-Wan just basically said, no, I can't do this because I'm part of the Jedi Council or whatever, you know, it was just like, wow, shit like that is just amazing. Now, I'm just like, it was just so great. It's little moments like this, you know, and it's great. I really like it for that. Now, as far as the cons go or whatever, you know, for me personally, it's, you know how I was saying, like, there are some episodes that don't focus on the main characters or whatever, and they focus on other characters? Some of those other characters I couldn't give a fuck about. Like, there are some episodes that are just like, oh my god, this is painful to watch. And, you know, I know there is a list out there of how to watch the Clone Wars, but I just felt like, if I'm going to watch the Clone Wars, I might as well watch it all. And so, But man, I just, there are some episodes where I was just like, I don't give a fuck what's going on. Like, any time that there was an episode that featured Jar Jar Binks, I was just like, nope, don't want this, don't like it at all, hate it, can't stand it. There was this long fucking story arc with R2-D2 and these other droids and this map coordinator that had to go steal this map from the Separatists, that then they crash land into this planet that's like just empty or whatever, and then they get lost, and then they find this little town, then they find a clone trooper, which was pretty cool to see that they found a clone trooper who had amnesia and doesn't remember how they ended up here, only to sacrifice himself just so that the droids can get away. But yeah, that whole arc was fucking dumb. That was just pointless. I mean, there's a lot of episodes that I couldn't care about. But again, there are some other episodes that are like that. But those episodes are they are interesting. Other than that, oh my god. What else didn't I like? That's really all I can think of, honestly. And I don't know. I will say there are some episodes where people love it. I will say when, there was the episode where Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka go to this planet where they meet the father, the son, and the daughter. And from my understanding, they are the manifests of the Force. And it's like, okay, every time we try to explain what the Force is or whatever, or try to go into the depths of the origin, I just feel like that just needs to fucking stop. Like, just keep it simple, The Force binds us together, surrounds us, and all that business. Just leave it at that. Just leave it at that. I will say it was pretty fucking cool to hear Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn. Like, that was pretty fucking dope to see or hear, mainly. And it was also dope to hear him again when, Yoda goes to train to learn about how he can, not Force Ghost, but basically be conscious after he's dead or whatever. That, it was cool to hear Qui-Gon Jinn, but that too just felt like, I don't think we needed this. Like, I really don't think we needed that. But yeah, I mean, Clone Wars, man, like, it's really, really good. Also, I'll just talk about the last season. The final season is very interesting. And, what I especially liked about it is how it is very much, like, they don't shy away from what came beforehand. In Clone Wars, what's also great about Clone Wars is how fucking brutal it is. And, you see that specifically with, I feel like, with Darth Maul. Darth Maul, when they bring Darth Maul back, they don't just bring him back, they make him vicious as fuck, dude. Like, it's fucking insane. Like, he is so goddamn hell-bent on making, like, people's lives a fucking living hell. But he's smart about it too. Like, he's very smart about it. But man, the show is very fucking brutal. You see characters get decapitated, and you see some people get impaled, and the show is fucking brutal, dude. And the final season does a great job at, like, being brutal as well. And the last season, I will say, it's okay. I mean, it's so bizarre that they were given 13 episodes, and I didn't mind the four, first 4 episodes or whatever with the Bad Batch or whatever, which, I just kind of rolled my eyes at those characters. I was like, oh god, what is this shit? But, what's crazy though is, I'm getting off topic real quick. Crazy about the last season is how updated it is with the animation. Like, it's updated and it's the same look and style, but it's like, it's very clear and smooth. But anyways, the first 4 episodes of the final season were just like, oh my god, okay, it's like, okay, not terrible. And I mean, I kind of was hoping that when they went to go save Echo that he was actually dead or whatever, because it's just like, I mean, there could be stakes, right? Like, there are stakes in this episodes. I mean, yeah, there are certain clone troopers we follow that do get killed off, and Echo is just like, we didn't. I mean, okay, I get it. He was part of like the commander, and scoping out strategic plans on how to take out the droids or whatever, and all that business. But it was just like, we didn't need this. You just could have been left to like stay dead. Like, that's just me. And then you get to the middle section of the episodes, which is basically catching up with Ahsoka. Where has she been? What's she been up to? And oh my god, that was painful. I mean, talk about filler episodes. Holy shit. I mean, you really could have skipped those episodes, especially when you get to the last 3 episodes or 4 episodes. Yeah, 4 episodes. Oh my god. Like, yeah. The last 4 episodes, you could have just watched the last 4 episodes. Like, that's going to be part of that list. When you watch the Clone Wars, I feel like the last 4 episodes are going to be part of that list of how you should watch the Clone Wars. And because, man, the last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars are just great. That's how you could have ended this series. Just have those 4 episodes. Like, because at the end of the day, it's just, I don't think you would be lost at all. I don't know. But, the last 4 episodes are all about, I'm sorry, I just got distracted for a second. The last 4 episodes are about Ahsoka and Bo-Katan going to Mandalore and taking out Maul for one last time and capturing him. And it's the end of the beginning. It's basically, Maul is just there on Mandalore just waiting or whatever, hoping that Anakin comes to him, since Maul has been having these weird dreams and is sensing like something big is coming, and he just doesn't know what it is, but something big is coming. And I like that even he was fucking scared of what was to come. He doesn't know what it was, but he knew something big was coming, and it had to do something with Anakin Skywalker. And dude, like, I had to talk about that battle between Ahsoka Tano and Darth Maul. And even now, like, I think Ahsoka Tano is a cool character. I'm not crazy for her like some fans are, but I totally see the appeal. I mean, it's just like you watch Ahsoka Tano become, you watch her path as a Padawan to eventually leaving, because, Jedi Council aren't fucking perfect, because they're kind of quick to like make decisions. So I totally got where she was coming from when she left the Order. And yeah, but seeing that battle between Ahsoka Tano and Darth Maul, I mean, I feel like if you hadn't told me it was motion captured, I probably would have figured it out, because it's you can totally tell it's motion captured at times. But dude, it does not disappoint. It's very exciting. It's thrilling. It's so goddamn beautiful. It's almost like it's very fucking cinematic. Like, to watch that battle on the big screen would be fucking something, because it's just like, again, going back to the animation, there's something about the animation, specifically right here with this battle, is where it's like something is so beautiful right here. I don't even know if there's a word for it, because it's just like there's something about this animation that's just flowing so beautiful, and it's just like, what is going on here? I can't even. It was so great. And you know how it all ends. Darth Maul gets captured. And it's just like, he's just wailing like, no, let me go, just let me die, and all this stuff. It's just like, dude, this is... But man, we get to that last episode, and man, dude, that last episode was fucking tense, dude. Ahsoka, and basically the beginning of Order 66. Like, dude, I could watch anything Star Wars related that deals with a different perspective on Order 66. Like, I could watch, it was, I didn't play Jedi Fallen Order. I mainly just watched a full gameplay of Jedi Fallen Order, and it wasn't until I watched that whole thing where I was like, dude, I would love to see more of this shit. Like, I would love to see more different and new perspectives on Order 66 with any other Jedi. Like, I could watch a whole fucking movie about that, honestly. I really could. Because that was just like, I mean, I don't know if that was the first time we've ever seen, a different perspective on Order 66 happening or whatever, but that was awesome as shit. But this one takes the cake for sure. Specifically because of the fact that when it happens, and there was just something so poetic about it. Like, I knew that I knew the whole season was basically spoiled for me. But even as I was watching this last episode, and I know Order 66 was coming, there was just something about it that was just like very nerve-wracking. Like, you could just feel any minute now it's gonna happen. How are they? And that was my one question as I was watching this. I'm like, how are they gonna, like, what's gonna, like, I was just waiting for that moment. It's like, what's it gonna look like when, how are they gonna, what's it called? God, how are they gonna show us Order 66? Like, how is it gonna, like, happen? And we hear all the events from Mace Windu fighting Darth Sidious, and then Anakin getting involved, and hearing Hayden Christensen and Samuel L. Jackson and Ian McDiarmid, and then it just happens, and Ahsoka's just like blocking, deflecting all the blasters and all that stuff, and it's just like, dude, what's going on? What the fuck? And it was really great, especially when they execute it in the way of, like, Ahsoka barely made it out alive. And the fact that she was able to save Commander Rex was just fucking crazy. And again, drawing back from the previous season where Fives, Clone Trooper 555 or whatever, knew that something was going on. He didn't know what it was, but it was in everybody else's and all the other clones' head or whatever. I just loved how the people that, I don't even know what the race is called, but I just love how they were just like, oh no, it's only just in case, they go against bad Jedis or whatever. They go against Jedis, so much for free will, But yeah, I just love the sense of, like, they barely made it out alive. And, I also love the fact that they showed Ahsoka struggling, and just, barely making out alive. It was great, man. And the fact that they ended the season where you see Vader and the Clone Wars animation, which looked fucking dope. It was just great. I liked how it ended, and I don't know if I would rewatch it all, but yeah, it was very fascinating. So overall, I'm glad I watched it. I mean, even though it was a chore at times, and there were some things that I just didn't really care for, like, the whole Night Sister thing or whatever, I was just like, this is kind of, I mean, I get it, space fantasy, why can't it have magic or whatever. It is what it is. You know, I also have a question. Whatever happened to Ventress? You know, we never really got to wrap up with her story or whatever. I guess she's just not she was an apprentice after all, turned into a bounty hunter, and she doesn't really have her lightsabers anymore. So I guess that makes sense. I don't know. Oh well. But yeah, man, would I recommend the show? I mean, I would recommend it to anybody that doesn't like the prequel trilogy at all. I would definitely recommend it, because it's like, you know, take it from someone who doesn't like the prequel trilogy. It made me appreciate those characters and whatnot, and just all those characters and all the different perspectives of the war. So, but yeah, and especially that last season, man. That last season was just great. Specifically the last 4 episodes. But yeah, I'm glad I watched it. Had a fun time. And, you know, that's all I got for this episode. Thank you all for listening. I'm Tristan, and you've just been spoiled.